Okay, so you know how everyone's been talking about EstateX lately?
Yeah, I've seen it popping up everywhere.
Well, you sent me a bunch of articles and research on it, and I gotta say, I'm pretty intrigued, this whole idea of revolutionizing real estate.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold claim, right?
It is.
Yeah.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of EstateX, can you give us a quick rundown of how this whole tokenized real estate thing actually works? I'm guessing some of our listeners might be new to the concept.
Sure, no problem. So imagine you've got a pizza. Instead of buying the whole pie, you could buy just a slice. Tokenized real estate is kind of like that. It lets you own a fraction of a property. And that fraction is represented by a digital token, kind of like owning stock in a company.
Okay, so it's like splitting up ownership of a building into these bite-sized digital pieces.
Exactly. And each of those pieces is recorded on a blockchain.
The blockchain.
Yep, a secure and transparent digital ledger. So it makes ownership easily verifiable and transferable.
Got it. So that's the general idea. But tell me about EstateX specifically. From what I've gathered, they're not just dipping their toes in the water here. They're going all in on tokenized real estate.
Yeah, they've built a whole ecosystem around it, which is what makes them so interesting. Their main platform is simply called EstateX, and it facilitates this fractional ownership. You can browse properties from all over the world, choose what you want to invest in, and purchase tokens representing your share.
So theoretically, I could own a tiny sliver of a skyscraper in Dubai or a beach house in Bali without needing millions of dollars.
Exactly.
That's wild.
It definitely sounds appealing. It offers accessibility that traditional real estate investing just doesn't.
Right?
But of course, we need to examine it critically as well. Does this level of accessibility truly democratize real estate as they claim? Or could it simply shift the concentration of wealth into a new digital form?
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of these new technologies
Yeah.
without really thinking about the potential downsides.
Yeah.
So beyond this fractional ownership, what else is EstateX offering?
Well, they seem to be targeting both sides of the market. Those looking to invest in real estate and those who already own property and want to leverage it in new ways.
Okay, I'm seeing where you're going with this. And that's where TokenizeX comes in, right?
Precisely. TokenizeX is their service for property owners who want to convert their real estate assets into digital tokens. They handle the whole process, from legal compliance to actually creating the tokens themselves.
So let's say I own an apartment building. I could use TokenizeX to essentially tokenize the building, split it into these digital shares,
Yeah.
and then offer those shares to investors.
That's the idea. It's like taking a traditionally illiquid asset and making it instantly divisible and tradable.
So it could be a game changer for property developers seeking funding, or for owners who are looking for ways to unlock the value of their assets. But couldn't that also lead to more speculation and volatility in the real estate market?
It's definitely a possibility. More liquidity could mean greater price fluctuations, especially in the early stages of this market.
That makes sense.
And this is where EstateX's commitment to financial education through their EstateX University platform becomes really important.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have to dig into that more later.
If they can equip users with the knowledge to make informed decisions, it could help mitigate some of the risks.
It's all about empowering people with the right information.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, so we've got fractional ownership with EstateX, and we've got tokenization for property owners with TokenizeX. But now I want to talk about CapitalX, because this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah, CapitalX is where EstateX takes a pretty radical step.
So tell me more about this. What makes CapitalX so different?
Well, imagine you need some quick cash, maybe for a business opportunity or an unexpected expense. Instead of going through the hassle of traditional lending, you could leverage your property tokens with CapitalX.
Wait, hold on. You're saying I could borrow money against my digital slice of a property?
Exactly.
That's wild.
It is pretty futuristic, and you could potentially access funds within minutes.
Wow, that's a huge difference from traditional lending. But what about the interest rates? And how do they determine the value of these tokens to figure out the loan amount?
Those are great questions, and the answers are going to be crucial in determining the long-term viability of this model. If the interest rates are sky high, or if the valuation process is shady, it could undermine the whole system.
Yeah, we'll definitely need to investigate the finer details of CapitalX. But for now, let's stick with this what-if train of thought. Because EstateX Pay, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it?
The idea of paying for your daily coffee using your property portfolio, it's such a mind-blowing concept.
It is. It's a huge departure from how we traditionally think about real estate.
Okay, break this down for me. How does EstateX Pay actually work?
So they use physical and virtual payment cards, powered by their own cryptocurrency token.
So there's a crypto element to this as well.
There is. You can link your property tokens to the card and use them to make purchases anywhere that accepts these payment methods.
So instead of swiping my credit card, I could be spending, what, a fraction of my virtual beach house on groceries?
It's a fascinating concept, isn't it?
It is.
But it also raises some questions about security, volatility, and the potential risks of tying your everyday spending to an emerging asset class.
Right. Like, what happens if the value of my property tokens plummets after I've done my weekly shopping? Or what if someone hacks into my account and steals my tokens?
Those are definitely things to consider.
And this EstateX token, that's the key to all of this, right?
Absolutely. EstateX is the fuel that powers the entire EstateX ecosystem.
Okay, so let's unpack this EstateX token a bit further. It's not just some random digital thing, right?
Right.
It actually has real utility within the platform.
Exactly. It's used for transactions, powering the payment system,
Yeah.
and accessing various features within the EstateX platform.
So its value is tied to the growth of the ecosystem itself.
That's the idea. The more people use the platform, the more demand there is for EstateX, which could potentially drive up its value.
But like you said earlier,
Yeah,
the value of any cryptocurrency can be really volatile.
it can.
So potential investors need to be cautious and do their research before jumping in. It sounds like EstateX has built this incredibly complex and interconnected system.
Yeah.
And we've only just scratched the surface here. They've also got EstateX University, their LaunchX platform, and a peer-to-peer marketplace called PropXchange. Let's dive into those next.
Sounds good to me. This is where it gets really interesting, seeing how they're trying to build a comprehensive ecosystem to support this whole new way of interacting with real estate.
All right, let's do it. All right, so we talked about EstateX's core features like fractional ownership and TokenizeX, but they've also got these other elements that seem designed to, educate and empower users. Like EstateX University, what's the deal with that?
So it's not just about throwing information at people. They've partnered up with some big names, experts and influencers in the real estate and blockchain world, to create courses that cover a bunch of different topics.
Okay, so it's like a legit educational platform.
It seems to be. They've got everything from the fundamentals of tokenized real estate to investment strategies, even risk management.
So it's not just for newbies. Even someone with experience in real estate could learn something.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much to learn about this new asset class, and the regulations are always changing, so staying up to date on the legal stuff is super important.
It makes you wonder why more companies in finance don't do this kind of educational outreach.
Right. You'd think they'd want their customers to be informed.
Feels like a lot of companies would rather keep people in the dark,
Yeah.
hoping they'll just buy into the hype.
Yeah, but I think EstateX gets it. They understand that an informed customer is a more confident customer. And a confident customer is more likely to make good decisions.
And those good decisions end up benefiting everyone in the long run.
Exactly. It's about building trust and transparency.
It definitely sets them apart from a lot of other platforms in the crypto space, where it seems like hype often trumps education.
I agree.
Okay, so big thumbs up for EstateX University. Now, what about LaunchX? Is that part of their educational thing too?
LaunchX is a little different. It's more of a platform for developers and entrepreneurs who want to launch their own tokenized real estate projects.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about investing in existing properties, it's about creating new opportunities.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
EstateX provides the tools and resources to handle everything from creating tokens to structuring the investment offering. They even help with legal compliance and marketing.
So if you've got a great idea for a real estate project, LaunchX can help you get it off the ground.
That's the idea. It's like they're lowering the barrier to entry for people with vision and passion.
That's a pretty big deal, but couldn't that also lead to, a bunch of questionable projects popping up?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. Just because something's tokenized doesn't mean it's a good investment. There are always going to be people trying to take advantage of a new market.
Right, so investors need to be careful. Do your homework, people.
Couldn't agree more. Due diligence is more important than ever.
Look into the asset, the team behind the project, the legal framework. Don't just throw your money at anything that sounds exciting.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got EstateX University for education and LaunchX for empowering entrepreneurs. But what about PropXchange? This is where the buying and selling actually happens, right?
That's right. PropXchange is EstateX's peer-to-peer marketplace. It's where buyers and sellers can trade property tokens directly with each other.
It's like a stock exchange.
Yeah.
But for digital real estate,
You got it.
that sounds pretty revolutionary, but also kind of risky, right? If anyone can trade these tokens so easily, couldn't that lead to some shady stuff? Like market manipulation?
It's definitely a possibility. That's why regulation is going to be so important.
Right. They need to make sure things are fair and transparent.
Yeah, the regulators are definitely watching this space closely.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about EstateX's core features, their educational platform, their developer tools, and even their peer-to-peer marketplace. But before we wrap up this part of the discussion, I want to bring up something that's often overlooked when we talk about new technology: the environmental impact.
Oh, that's a good point.
Real estate has a huge carbon footprint. Does EstateX address this at all?
That's a really important question. And to be honest, I haven't seen a lot of details about their environmental initiatives.
Really?
I know they've mentioned using blockchain technology in a responsible way, but I haven't seen any specifics.
It seems like a missed opportunity.
It does?
What if they focused on tokenizing energy-efficient buildings? Or sustainable development projects?
Right.
Or what if they integrated carbon offsetting into their platform?
That would be amazing.
It would be a way for investors to make money and do something good for the planet at the same time.
I think there's a huge opportunity here to align the growth of tokenized real estate with sustainability. It's something I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on.
Me too. It's a good reminder that we need to think about the bigger picture, not just the potential for profit. Okay, so let's move on to the final part of our deep dive and talk about the broader implications of tokenized real estate. All right, so we've explored all the details of EstateX itself, but now I want to zoom out a bit. What about the big picture? How could this whole tokenized real estate thing reshape the world?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like we're at the edge of a new frontier.
It's exciting, right? So much potential, but also a lot of uncertainty.
Exactly.
So let's speculate a little, put on our futurist hats. Could tokenized real estate actually live up to the hype? Could it really democratize real estate investment, like some people are saying?
It's definitely possible. Imagine a world where anyone, even someone with limited funds, could own a piece of a prime property.
Like a slice of a skyscraper in New York City.
Exactly, or a beachfront condo in Miami. It could open up a whole new world of opportunities.
But wouldn't that also change the entire real estate game? I mean, what happens when real estate becomes as liquid as stocks?
That's one of the big questions. More liquidity could definitely lead to more volatility.
It's a bigger price swings.
Potentially. We've already seen how sensitive crypto markets can be, and tokenized real estate could be even more susceptible to those kinds of rapid fluctuations.
So it's a double-edged sword, more opportunities, but also more risks.
Exactly.
And we can't forget about the potential impact on existing inequalities.
Right. If those with more money and knowledge are better equipped to navigate this new market, it could end up widening the wealth gap.
It's like any new technology. There are always unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
And speaking of unintended consequences, we have to talk about regulation.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Governments are still trying to figure out how to handle crypto.
It's a whole new world for them.
And then you add tokenized real estate into the mix. It gets even more complicated.
Right. How do you balance innovation with consumer protection?
It's a tough question.
It is. And the answers are going to vary from country to country.
So it's a bit of a Wild West out there right now.
For the moment.
Yeah.
But I think we'll see more clarity in the coming years.
As regulators start to catch up.
Exactly.
Which means investors need to stay informed and be prepared for the rules to change.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about democratization, volatility, and regulation. But what about the social implications? Could tokenized real estate change the way we interact with our communities?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think that's where some of the most exciting possibilities lie.
Really? Tell me more.
Okay, imagine a group of neighbors. They want to buy a piece of land to create a community garden, but they can't afford to do it through traditional means. So they pool their resources and buy tokens that represent ownership of the land.
That's a cool idea.
It is, and it allows them to create something beautiful and beneficial for everyone in the neighborhood.
It's like a modern-day take on the old cooperative ownership models.
It is, but powered by blockchain technology.
I love that.
It's about more than just profits. It's about community empowerment.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into EstateX and tokenized real estate, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I'd say this. This is a truly transformative technology with the potential to reshape the world as we know it. But it's still early days, so stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged in the conversation.
That's fantastic advice.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of EstateX.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep questioning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.